for joining me for this edition of 365 Days of Public Speaking. My name is Lionel Yementu. Today you are going to learn how to deal with distractions while delivering a speech. Now there's times when you are going to be on the platform to give a speech or a presentation and you have to deal with distractions, sometimes from the audience, sometimes on the platform where you're speaking. Today we'll talk about 4 different situations that are distractions and we will propose ways to effectively deal with them. Let's get into it. The first distraction could be a passing distraction. For example, entry of latecomers. Let's say you are in a venue where you have a room dedicated for your session, and next door or in the same facility you do have other, for example, breakout sessions, and people have to come out of other sessions to get into yours, and they get in maybe late because it's quite a distance from where you're presenting. How do you deal with that? People coming in as you've already started with your speech. The best way to deal with that is to pause until the distraction recedes, and then you proceed when everybody is settled. Now, one way to deal with that could be to either ask someone to stand at the door to prevent people from entering until you get to a point in your speech where you pause and let them in, or you could just find a different way based on your venue and your situation. But again, the recommendation here is to pause until the distraction recedes from people coming into the venue where you're giving your speech. Now, the second distraction could be ongoing noise. For example, you are doing a presentation, you are giving a speech in a venue that is close to a construction site, or the room next door is getting through some renovation. How do you deal with all that construction noise or any other type of noise? It could be a party next door. How do you deal with that? The best way is to raise the volume as high as you can of either your voice or the audio equipment that you're using. Those are the best way to deal with noise that you cannot either cancel or have that noise stop, or if there's no other way for you to deal with that construction noise. One way is to change venues, change room, if at all possible. Or in the worst case scenario, you could always ask the event planner or yourself, if it's your own event, to reschedule, have the presentation on a different date. If maybe you don't have that many people who have come from that far, you could reschedule to a date that works best for the audience. The third type of distraction could be a sudden distraction. Example, a collapsing of a chair or falling of an object. Maybe it's happening at the back of the room and you don't want to lose part of your audience because everything that you're saying is important. How do you deal with that? I recommend to minimize the response and proceed, because let's face it, if something is happening at the back of the room that is distracting and you have 80% of your audience facing you with you, it is okay to just carry on, because what the audience will do when they see that you don't give that much weight to what is happening there, they are going to quickly come back and be drawn into what you're saying. Because remember, every time you are on stage giving a speech or a presentation, you are in charge in that room. Everything comes down to you and what you do. If you are distracted by anything that is happening in that room, the audience also gets distracted. So you want to, just for that type of distraction, just minimize your response. You could maybe give a short pause to acknowledge that and then proceed. Now let's deal with the fourth type of distraction. It could be an audience interruption. Example, someone raising his hand, maybe in one of the front rows or the middle row, someone that everybody can see, and he or she raises the hand to maybe ask a question or draw your attention to something. How do you deal with that? First, you have to make sure that the person is not drawing your attention to an emergency or something that could jeopardize the entire situation, the entire event. For safety's sake, you could say, do you have a question? If the person says, yes, I do, you could, for example, depending on what type of speech you're giving and the framework, the structure of your presentation, you could say, could you please hold on, take note of that question, and we'll address it at the end of the speech. You could do that, or you could have the person escorted to the center aisle or given the microphone for the person to ask the question for you to answer it before you continue. But everything when it comes to those audience interruptions is going to be based on the format of your speech, the size of the audience. So there are a lot of parameters that come into play. But just be aware that that is one type of interruption and be prepared to deal with it. The best way I deal with it is to tell the audience, I do have a segment at the end of the talk reserved for Q&A. Could you please hold on to that question? Ask nicely and politely, and most of the time people are going to take it in good faith. There you have it. 4 ways to deal with distractions, on how to handle distractions while delivering a speech. Let's quickly recap. We talked about 4 different scenarios or problems or situations and 4 different ways or solutions to deal with those interruptions. The first one was a passing distraction. For example, entry of latecomers. How do you deal with that? Pause until the distraction recedes. The second scenario, you have ongoing noise, construction for example. How do you deal with that? You raise your speaking volume. Number 3, a sudden distraction, a falling chair, a falling object, or a collapsing chair. How do you deal with that? You minimize the response and you proceed. The 4th scenario, audience interruption. Maybe someone raises hand or 2 people are engaged in a dialogue as part of your group, this group that you're speaking to. How do you deal with that? Acknowledge the audience reaction and either follow up or defer the response to the conclusion of the speech. There you have it. 4 ways to deal with distractions while delivering a speech. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to do share with a friend or 2 if you like it. If you did not, that's okay. Come back for the next one. And do subscribe to this video channel. That helps keep going. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again for the next video.